Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Zach Drew. We are one of your sources for Christian alternative news, keeping you in the know of what's happening in the world and how it applies to our walk of faith. A lot to cover on today's program, so let's get started. So Donald Trump is quickly assembling his team for his second term, with his picks signaling what his priorities will be. With the first being Tom Homan, charged with carrying out America's largest deportation ever. Homan is somebody who really stands up for the principles of a closed border and for legal immigration. In October, during an interview with 60 Minutes, Cecilia Vega, Homan clarified exactly what his position is on deportation. Take a listen.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
So he's clearly a no-nonsense type of guy. Here's the article. You know what, actually, I don't even think we're gonna be able to have the article on the screen because I'm using an article from InfoWars and did this a couple of days ago. And as of yesterday, InfoWars was officially shut down. So the article did read, Trump border czar Tom Homan says USA will send special ops to wipe out cartels, and denies rumors of deporting citizens. It said within the article, President-elect Donald Trump's newly appointed border czar, Tom Homan, joined Fox News' Hannity on Monday night to detail how he'll help make America safe again by securing the southern border and going after Mexican drug cartels. It was pretty awesome. Take a listen to this.
Again, and we know what happens to these children, Sean. And look, the illegal aliens coming across the border, people need to understand, 31% of women that make that journey get raped by criminal cartels. Children get raped. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 that have been raped multiple times. These cartels are animals, and that's why President Trump's going to take them off the face of the earth. They've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world. And President Trump is committed to calling them terrorist organization and using the full might of the United States Special Operations to take them out.
Are we in a new America? At least this is not the America that I remember for at least the last 10 or 15 years. Imagine that the U.S. military finally fighting a worthwhile war against an enemy that directly threatens the security of America and its citizens, going after the cartel. This man is an anti-globalist super patriot. A big W for America, huge win. You know, I said last week that Bill Clinton deported well over 10 million illegal aliens, and people just can't believe that took place. We have short memories. And now people are saying, well, it can't be done. It's already been done before. And he wasn't nearly the first president to do this. But people don't know their history. Take a listen to this video of different presidents and their role that they played in deportation. We're going to go back almost 100 years, starting back in 1929.
Let's start in 1929. From 1929 to 1933, 1.2 million illegals were deported. Really? Back to Mexico. Huh. Then you go to Eisenhower. I can't tell you the name of the operation, but it starts with a W and ends in a K and has AC in the middle. 1.3 million deported. Now remember, this is, I can't say what that operation was. I can't say it because it's demonized as the worst. Well, of course it's the worst. Herbert Hoover, Republican, Eisenhower, Republican. Oh, until you get to Bill Clinton, who deported 12 million or had voluntary removal. Exactly what Donald Trump is saying, that the left is saying can't happen. It will destroy everything. It'll be chaos. Cats and dogs will be sleeping together. It will be a nightmare. Except Mr. Democrat himself, the man that brought the party back from extinction, That Bill Clinton, you know, the first black president, 12 million. Huh. So it can be done. Now, under George W. Bush from 2001 to 2009, 2 million were deported. Under Barack Obama from 2009 to 2017, 3 million were deported. Yes, the progressive Jesus himself. Oh, he just didn't love people. But immigration advocates knew him by another name, the deporter-in-chief. Now, you look at all these numbers. Now, these are, classified as mass deportations. And then I want you to look at Mr. Hitler himself, the Trump administration from 2017 to 2021. 935,000 were deported. Nowhere near either Bill Clinton nor Barack Obama.
Well, there you have it. Bill Clinton, 12 million deported. Now, this is never an attack on legal immigration. People doing it the right way, going through the legal and rightful ports of entry. We're talking about criminals that have broken the law and have illegally came into our country. And yes, so Bill Clinton, 12 million. Now, and I searched this up online. That was whenever there was roughly, in the 90s, during his presidency, the average population of America was around 270 million people, okay? That equaled 4.43% of the total population. That would also equal around 15.5 million today, accounting for our growing population. But it can't be done. It's been done before. And Obama, deported, as you saw, 3 million. That was before they needed to replace blue-collar voters. A shift has been taking place in America. George W. Bush, 2 million. Hoover, 1 to 2 million. Eisenhower, 1.1 to 1.3 million. And then he ended with Trump's first term, 935,000. 935,000. And now we are facing a legitimate crisis, and everyone's freaking out that it can't be done. It will be crazy. And once again, I don't want to beat this dead horse, but 21 million illegal aliens granted amnesty. It's the end of America. And so it has to be done under Donald Trump, because if they're not deported, then they're here. If a Democrat gets elected again, they're here. We need to do as much as we possibly can to prevent them from doing as much as they possibly can. Right? I mean, this is an issue that goes away just because Donald Trump is the president. No, he has to get them out of here, because if they're still here, come the next Democrat sitting president, they're going to grant amnesty then. This is a make or break type of situation. We would never be able to, we would never look at the 7 swing states again on election night. Everything would be blue. It was done in California in 1986, whenever they granted nearly 3 million illegal aliens amnesty, and California forever went blue because it was red for decades before that. I want to talk about something that I'm very excited about, and what Donald Trump said just this week on what he's going to do federally, obviously, to the educational system, boarding up the oh gosh, what's it called? The Department of Education in Washington, D.C., sending and packing. But before I do that, I want to spend a couple of minutes on this. We are in our year-end fundraiser, okay? I'm going to go through this quickly. And I got a lot of flack last week. People saying, great show, but you don't need to spend so much time on fundraising. How in the world do we run this thing? We don't have sponsors. We don't have product. This isn't a for-profit corporation. This is a nonprofit. The only way that I can sit in this studio and talk is if finances come in. The only way that we can continue this message and be on airtime and be on cable, Comcast cable, on millions and millions of homes is only if I raise the funds. And there have been weeks on end where I'll forget to talk about it. And if I forget 1 week, we see it. We see it in our finances. And this is nobody's full-time job either. Anybody that's associated with this production, it is not their full-time job. I do 3 other things other than this. And so if the finances were here, I'd knock a couple of those off. That'd be fantastic, being able to dedicate more time. But okay, I have to raise the funds, and I need your help. We are in our year of in fundraising. With less than 7 weeks to go, we need some major players to step up, and I'm hoping that I'm talking to a few of you right now. We need to raise a total of $60,000 for our airtime, our editing, closed captioning, accounting, and web developer fees. Now, I've said it in the last couple of weeks, our dear friend Mark Eskiner has pledged a match for the first $10,000 that come in. And I do want to thank those who gave this week towards our fundraiser. Thank you, Barbara, for your donation of $200. And thank you, Larry and Joyce, for your donation of $600. That puts our total that we've raised so far, that we've been able to match, is $8,620. So the next $10,000 match, so that means the next $1,380 that come in for the fundraiser will be matched. Would you consider that? Would you talk to who you need to talk to and say, you know what? I believe in what Zach is doing. God is using him. This is good soil. Would you consider sowing a seed into this ministry for $1,380 and being that final person that gets us to that $10,000 match? Would you do that? And remember, once we've done that, we still have $40,000 left to go. So we're praying that God moves in a big way, that he's moving on your heart right now. I pray. This is every year, this is such a thing of faith for me. If you want to give, go to zachdrewshow.com and click that bright orange donate button. It's literally that simple. zachdrewshow.com, click the bright orange button. It'll take you to a program called Tithely, which is a Christian online payment platform. Or you can give to Zach Drew Show, P.O. Box 797, Decatur, Illinois, 62525. Just make sure in the memo, please put fundraiser so we know exactly where it's going and that you're not just a monthly recurring partner, even though we basically know all of those by name. Okay, let's get back to it. Education. It's incredibly important to me. Not just because I see the way that our youth is going in schools and at university, but it hits really close to home because it's constantly on my mind, right? You can imagine I have 2 little kids, 4 and 6, and I do send them to a private Christian school and preschool, even though at times I really feel like I cannot afford this. But what's the alternative, right? I mean, you know, I've said it before in the program that it costs in more ways than one, but financially speaking, it costs to be a conservative Christian in America today. I wish I could just send my kids if this was 100 years ago, I probably would just send them to public school because of what the schools were like back then, but it costs. And I make sacrifices. You make sacrifices so that you can put your children or grandchildren's education as priority. That's where we are in America. And also why I'm talking about this, it's not the job of your pastor or youth pastor to raise your children either. That responsibility falls squarely on us as the parent. And I wanted to put that in my notes because I see that a lot, you know, that the school, the church, the youth group, these should all be supplemental to, not replacements of, what we as parents should be doing at home, all right? To look like Christ in life, which is a struggle. I struggle with it. There are several times a week where I'm just like, Zach, slow down. Or, you know, I'll get angry and like, nope. This, you know, it's a struggle like we all have to be like Christ. Parenting is absolutely a sanctification process. Oh my gosh. But it's worth it. To train them up in the Lord, to teach them the scriptures. You know, I don't know what you're doing, but get them in the scriptures. With Jedediah and Anessa, you know, I take that seriously. We've gone through the entire children's Bible. It's a few hundred pages long. We went through the entire children's Bible from Genesis to Revelation 2 times already. And you can see how that shapes their entire worldview. They're so impressionable right now. That's why it's so important to get them while they're young. That's why the globalists and elite, that's why they even want to send kids. I don't know if you saw that article. I didn't have it in my notes, but they want to send kids to school even longer every day to get them away from any other influences in their life. They want to have total, complete control over your children. And as far as time goes, I'm talking about like active time, on a day whenever, you're awake and active. So not whenever you're sleeping. Time-wise, they will spend more time at school than at home. And this is why education is so very, very, very important. So here's the article, which I can't show you because this one came from Alex Jones as well. Gee whiz, it must have been an Alex Jones show today. And so he's totally offline. They have destroyed his entire, and he's starting something new. I think it's called the Alex Jones Network, but it's gone. Actually, just the satire site The Onion bought InfoWars. But the article did say Trump pledges to abolish the Department of Education and give power back to the states. To pledge to abolish the Department of Education. This is crazy. Think about the history of education in America and how far we've departed from it and sending it back to the states. Here is what Donald Trump had to say about what he is going to do.
And one other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states. We want them to run the education of our children because they'll do a much better job of it. You can't do worse. We spend more money per pupil by 3 times than any other nation, and yet we're absolutely at the bottom. We're one of the worst. So you can't do worse. We're going to end education coming out of Washington, D.C. We're going to close it up, all those buildings all over the place, and you have people that in many cases hate our children. We're going to send it all back to the states.
The call to abolish the Department of Education and wrest control from a godless, centralized system is nothing short of a battle cry for our children's souls. Because as we know, we look at history, and for decades, this monolithic institution has fed our young a toxic diet of anti-Christian ideologies, totally stripping them of the innocence that God gave them, and instead replacing it with indoctrinating them with values that mock God's truth. It's the modern day educational system is anti-Christ. It's anti-Christ. And this isn't just misguided policy, it's a direct assault on our children's minds and spirits, a calculated attempt to replace God with the state. It's anti-Christ. And the Department of Education was given, has given us all of these things like critical race theory and the 1619 Project. They come in with their revisionists and they revise history. They've given us postmodernism. We're all of these, who's orchestrating all of this hormonal therapy for the children? It's the schools. It's the schools. All these news about what's going on, how are they doing this, why are they doing this? It is the schools that have taken control of your children. This is where we get things like Drag Queen Story Hour. And let me tell you, when Donald Trump does this, there will be many states that stick with this garbage, but there will be several others that do not. Think about putting prayer back in school, steering millions of young, impressionable minds into conservative Christian values. Proverbs 22:6, we all know it. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. But it's the reverse too, I believe. If you train up a child in the way he should not go, then when he gets older, he's not going to depart from that. Returning education to the states isn't merely an administrative shift. It's an act of defiance against a dark spiritual agenda. That's why some people say, "Oh, Zach, you're so political." And I am political, but a lot of these political topics are absolutely spiritual. I'm for parental rights by putting education back in the hands of parents and communities who uphold godly values. We stand guard against the encroachment of secularism and anti-biblical doctrines. This is a line in the sand, okay? This is a huge issue. And not just because I have a 4- and 6-year-old. This is a huge issue for all of us. This is a huge issue for the future of America. We will no longer allow strangers to poison our children's minds. We are reclaiming our God-given right to raise our children in the truth, arming them with faith to stand firm in an increasingly hostile world. They have become cults, grooming our children. And you destroy this by abolishing the Department of Education, sending all education back to the states. I want to switch topics just really quickly. I want to talk about legacy media, mainstream news. Here's an article. MSNBC audience told to listen to Joe Rogan and have a discourse on X and ditch dinosaur media. What in the heck is going on? They're coming too, people. It seems like it. I shouldn't underestimate the stupidity, though. Probably eat those words. I don't know if they're really coming to, but it seems like it right now. Co-founder and CEO of Axios told mainstream media viewers who are frustrated with Donald Trump's election victory that legacy media is dead. What? Axios? That's huge. Especially those, like myself in the research world. This is where we get a major amount of our news from. He says that legacy media is dead and the future lies in the hands of podcasts such as the Joe Rogan Experience and social media sites like X. I'm going to play a video. Listen to the host sigh when he hears the guest say Joe Rogan is now more important than any of us.
You've always been sort of the leading edge of where media is going with Politico, now with Axios. You understand the environment so well. How do Democrats, and frankly, how does legacy media need to change the way it thinks about getting information? I mean, a lot of the voters who went out and voted for Donald Trump, that so many people are wondering what happened here, they're not watching, frankly, this show. They're not reading the New York Times. They're not consuming media that way. And the Trump campaign found those voters where they live. So how do Democrats need to change the way they communicate to voters, if you think that's part of the problem?
For sure. I mean, I think all of us have to come to grips with legacy media is just not as important as it thinks it is. It is to you, it is to me. That's a relatively small group of people who rely on us for their information. And you have to go into the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. And basically, the way people get information is shattered into 20, 30 different pieces. And so if you just look empirically at the numbers, Joe Rogan's more important than any of us. He just has a much bigger, hyper-connected audience that listens to his every word. So maybe listen to Joe Rogan and kind of understand, like, what is he talking about? What are the guests that he has on? What are the issues that they care about? Realize that the gravity of right-wing discourse is now taking place on X. It's not Fox. X is what matters. Elon Musk is now, I wrote about this yesterday, arguably the most powerful civilian in the history of the country. He controls information flow. He controls multiple businesses. He has the president's ear. He's going to be in charge of some newfangled organization to gut government spending. We've not seen a person with that kind of clout across those sectors. But where his real power comes from is X. People thought he was an idiot when he bought X because he lost a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. And now he happens to have the most powerful platform on the right. And politics is downstream from information. And there's just a whole new information ecosystem out there. So for us, for you, for Democrats, for Republicans, you have to understand that you now are going to have to basically navigate 20 or 30 different parts of the ecosystem if you want to connect with the American people who vote.
Wild times. The Axios co-founder, you saw, basically held the hands of mainstream media viewers next, explaining to them that the dinosaur news outlets on television have lost power, people. And the new age of information has arrived, and it's taking place online. And that is why, it's another huge topic, but in the same vein. And Donald Trump has tweeted about it in the past, concerning that we must repeal Section 230. Before I explain to you quickly what 230 is, those of you that watch the show over the years, I've talked about it before. Joe Biden couldn't get it done, but he had also had tweeted and made known that Section 230 needs to be repealed and rewritten. And so it's very important that what I'm about ready to tell you is that both Democrats and Republicans want to repeal and rewrite this this thing that grants technology companies this illegal immunity. But it is unbelievably important. My gosh, there's so many things that if one of these things went wrong, it would spell the end of America. I understand the concept of a perfect storm when you have all of these elements at play. And this is another one. If there was a Marxist Democrat sitting in the White House that was able to repeal and rewrite 230, we would never have free speech again, ever. But if it can be repealed and rewritten under a conservative, it would give us more freedom of speech. They both want to do it, and it all is dependent upon who's sitting in that power chair. What is Section 230 and what did it set out to do? Section 230 grants technology companies such as Facebook, Google, and Twitter increased legal immunity to moderate content on their platforms to prevent frivolous lawsuits, protect companies from being sued. But through that, it also gives the right for these companies to police the content on their site. An example would be they can delete content if it is offensive or hateful. And I put here in my notes, great. Well, who is going to argue with that? That would make sense and likely work if we were not living in a postmodern world. Decades ago, Section 230 gave technology companies sweeping power to police content on their platforms. Now some lawmakers want that power back. They have the total right, the legal immunity to censor content that could be harmful. The problem is that the major technology companies, the OTT platform other than X, are hardcore left-wing Marxists. And the content that they deem harmful, that the law allows them to remove legally, is simply voices of dissent, voices that don't agree with them. And they have the legal right to do this. And that's why it's so important who is sitting in the hot seat when this thing boils over. We need to repeal and rewrite Section 230 to strip this right away so that we have more freedom of speech. And the other side is saying, yes, we do need to do that. And we need to give them more power. One will give us more freedom, and one will silence all dissenting voices. As we wrap up today, let's just take a step back and realize what's happening right now in our country. This isn't just politics. It's a true fight, and it's a fight for the very soul of America. And President Trump's team is already gearing up, prioritizing border security, empowering parents to educate their children in godly values, and finally challenging the chokehold of legacy media. And this isn't just a shift, it's a battle for everything we hold dear. Like I said before, like our children. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. It's not enough to send our kids to good schools or rely on a Sunday sermon. We are the ones responsible. The Department of Education and this godless system, they've had their turn. And look at the mess that they've made. It's time. It's time we bring education back home, back to the states where parents and communities can raise our children in the truth. Let me tell you something else. In Jeremiah 6:16, it says this: "Stand by the roads and look, and ask for the ancient paths, where the good way is, and walk in it." America's ancient path is the path of freedom and the path of faith. We've strayed, yeah, But this is our chance, a chance to stand up, to refuse to bow to the lies of a globalist anti-God agenda. This is our time to declare no more. We will raise our children, we will fight for truth, and we will reclaim the heart of this nation. Keep praying, keep standing, and keep your eyes on the one who holds it all, God. I'm totally out of time. Remember, please give to our fundraiser. We need this help in this season. Stand with us. If you believe in what we're doing, if you believe in the message, give a sacrificial gift today to help us continue with what we feel God has asked us to do. I love you guys. I'll see you next week.